You read that right. This isn't clickbait or hyperbolic. I spent 4 years of my life slaving away at the game just for it to have 50 sales, and that's not even counting the refunds. I promise I do a post-mortem, and this is the best you're gonna get out of me. You might have expected a sad tone without music, but if you know me, then you know that I love laughing at my failures. Why do I laugh? Because otherwise I would cry, and that makes people somehow even more uncomfortable around me than they usually are. So, join me as I share with you my story of how I wasted 4 years of my life on a failure. If this is the first video you see of me, hi! I am indiedev, and for the past 4 years I've been developing a game called Iridescent. An action-adventure game with parry-based combat in a magic meets low steampunk world. Or, to sound less pretentious, side-scroller Zelda dungeons, exploration and puzzles meets sekiro combat in a world similar to Thief but a lot more magic. By this premise alone you probably see red flags galore on how this project failed. Comparing myself to industry giants, scoped out the fucking ass, and a mismatch of styles and inspirations that don't fit together. All made by essentially one person who, let me remind you, never released a game before. Of course this game would never come out. Joke's on you, because it actually did come out. Look, here it is on Steam. And if this video somehow blows up, then this is your not so subtle hint to buy it. Honestly, looking back at it, I'm surprised I reached the finish line. Sunken cost fallacy got me good, I guess. This project started as me just wanting to make a game. The last one I did was during high school, because I managed to talk my teachers into allowing me to make a game for a year-long school project. This one started shortly after high school. I got an idea, started developing something, then after a week to a month got bored, threw everything out, and took a nice long break of about a month. Rinse and repeat till we reached the version that was shown off as the first ever video on this channel. I never wrote down a design document or anything of the sorts. I had a rough idea and the broad strokes of the story and gameplay progression, but that's about it. Yes, I YOLO'd 4 years of my life, get over it. What gave me structure was using the old school Nintendo method of designing the levels. Making the player character and all of their moves first, then building a world around their capabilities. This did cause me to develop myself into a corner in a few areas. First was my liberal use of "I'll do shit here later" areas. Places that I left open for stuff to do later. Some of them became where I put the side content. Some of them were used to connect the mainline content. It's a case of only me being aware of how stitched together this thing is, because if you don't know that something wasn't meant to be here exactly, where it is now, then you will never notice because you never knew. Okay, well, one place is noticeable, the ranch. I was thinking of using it for something, but then I needed to release the game, so I just made a visual gag and left it at that. The more substantial corner came when way later playtesters mentioned that the platforming wasn't all that great, and I made way too many levels to change it. It's not the best, but also not a complete deal breaker, so I just left it and said, you know what, better luck next time. And somehow these are all the issues that happened. The world is fully connected without any Dark Souls 2 bullshit, and both gameplay and story fit perfectly, even though they have been made like this. I think the reason for the cohesion is that my life was fucked for the majority of the development. You see, I was getting my bachelor's at the time, but to pay for it, and rent, and other expenses, I needed a semi-full-time job. So for about 3 years or so, I was running night shifts, almost every single workday, and then going to school right after. Weekends were usually used to catch up on school projects and stare blankly at my wall because my brain was fried from this lifestyle. In the time I was working or going to school, I obviously didn't have the time to develop the game, so I kept daydreaming about it. The more I daydreamed, the more concrete the ideas became. If the existence of this game isn't baffling enough yet, I also gave myself a deadline. After that first video was released, I said I would take no longer than exactly 4 years to finish Iridescent. My original estimate was that I could probably be done in around 1 year, but I know that my estimates are wrong, so I always take what my gut is telling me and multiply that by 4. I would release Iridescent in whatever state it was if I was hitting the deadline. Sufficient to say, I had time to spare, and the exact time it took is closer to 3 years and a half. But I just said 4 years. Does that mean I lied? Yeah, I did. You know what also was a lie? Me being a solo developer. I used music for opengameart.org. Most of it was by a guy called Centurion of War. Also got a few sound effects from there as well. Oh, speaking of not being alone. No man is an island. And no game is worth shit when no one plays it. Socrates, Ancient Greece, 2012. So, the development wasn't quite the issue here. I am no pirate or indiedev. But it does not matter how well the development went when the players don't like it. Let's just rip the band-aid off. The game is hard. It's meant to be hard. When I see people struggle, I get how. What the fuck am I reading? The story and mechanics all favor player improvement over statistical improvement. It's mainly because that kind of approach appeals to me, specifically. That's why I prefer Sekiro's combat over pretty much any other FromSoft game, as it does away with all the stuff and just tells you to do it! It is not a game for everybody. Hell, it's probably not a game for the majority of people. And I couldn't write the story or make the moments the way they are now without pushing the player into improving. I say all this preemptively to shield me from the counters I will be reading in the comments. Who am I kidding? Who the fuck watches these videos anyways? When you make a hard game, inevitably, people will be filtered. Everybody has their tolerance, and any form of adversity will be too much for somebody. Doubly so if it's a kind of adversity that they don't gel with. Getting a perfect score on some Guitar Hero songs is probably harder than some Dark Souls bosses. But that doesn't mean a pro Souls player would like Guitar Hero, and vice versa. To give a personal example, I didn't like Elden Ring. I beat it, but the challenge it provided didn't gel well with me, and I didn't like it. Hence, I didn't even try Shadow of the Earth Tree. It does feel a lot worse though, when it's your game that filters people and they stop playing.
This game is gonna be the death of me.
Let me present to you Nyx. Nyx is the barbed wired noob wall that you need to cross before leaving the early game. According to the Steam stats, less than half of the people that made it through the tutorial also beat Nyx. The art style is probably not helping for once. Let me tell you about this art style. I struck gold with it, I tell ya. It was made with the express purpose of slapping me on my wrist each time I wanted to make an elaborate design. Because I needed to animate so much, it was paramount to stay simple, so I chose this art style to force simplicity. Almost everyone who talked with me about the game praised the art style, which makes my ego bloat like a AAA game's budget. But something very common that was also mentioned is that it reminds them of Undertale. First off, I take that as an insult, because I consider Undertale to be a bad looking game, bar a few standout segments. Second off, imagine a hacking wholesome Undertale child who just beat their third pacifist playthrough, trying to pacify a boss that just killed every NPC you met so far, and your only dialogue choice is to scream of anguish as you die. Of course, I did rebalance the game where needed using the feedback I received. But funny enough, I got more feedback about making stuff harder than easier. It might be a shock to you, but yeah, I did go out of my way to ask for feedback. For the longest time, the whole early game in its entirety was a free demo build you could play. When I got a very small following on Discord, I also did a beta test. The beta was just the mainline content, without any of the side content. And the feedback was mostly positive from the people that made it till the end. The people who didn't make it that far were a lot more negative, but it was often that the difficulty wasn't to their taste. Or at least that's the cope I'm selling myself. You might have noticed how all over the place the segment is, as I don't know if the game is good or bad because I'm getting a lot of conflicting feedback. And the player pool is so small that I don't know what to listen to. Well, I know I have to listen to one thing, and that's the bug report channel. Holy shit, the beta was the only reason I didn't release something that would make Todd Howard blush. I gave Asmongold's room a run for its money by the amount of bugs I had in the game. There is still bugs in the game. The elevator is still cursed because each time someone plays this dungeon, there is a new bug. One guy called this the buggiest game he has ever played. Part of it is caused by me living the way I did for the majority of development. Part of it is me learning to program while making the game. To the point that the first 2 bosses of the game are such a pile of spaghetti that it would be quicker to remake it from scratch than to add 1 more attack. Part of it was, well, ambition. I forgot to mention it before, but when I gave the game to playtesters, I expected it to be around 8 hours. 12 maybe with side content. Most beta beaters said the game is 40 hours, and that was just the mainline content. A guy on Steam 100% completed the game, and he has over 100 hours. And this isn't 100 hours of Ubisoft slop. Each part has unique gimmicks, visual bosses, yada yada. There's a full optional dungeon, multiple optional fights, a super boss minigames, and more. You might start to realize how easy it is to have blind spots when you are one guy trying to maintain this behemoth. That's an explanation, not an excuse. The player doesn't care how the game was made. They care if the game works, and it certainly did in that parts. The beta had some game-breaking bugs, and even save-corrupting ones. As far as I'm aware, all the bugs in the game now are minor, or either so small that I just can't notice them. Again, I'm still actively trying to fix them. It's better than some games of this scale, but I definitely haven't reached the Nintendo level of quality control. For $10, I think it's a reasonable price. Serviceable amount of polish combined with a fat serving of content. So, if the game is mostly good, why didn't it sell? The obvious culprit is marketing. We will get to that, but just blaming that feels like cope. So let's dive deeper in. The indie dev market is saturated as all hell. I'm not just a good game, I'm a good game in a sea of great games that have a lot more going for them. Iridescent isn't doing itself any favors in the current way that games spread via influencers and word of mouth. Let's break it down. My flavor of difficulty removes most people looking for a casual experience. I mentioned already that the game is hard, but it's hard in a way that is hard to sell. Usually there are 2 ways hard games get attention from influencers. First is that it being hard is one of many things. Hollow Knight got its foot in the door for being visually stunning with a big and varied world and excellent Metroidvania design. The difficulty was just a cherry on top. It got the ball rolling to the point that people picked it up. Not because they wanted to play Hollow Knight, but because Hollow Knight was currently trending. Silksong was covered by nearly everyone, from cozy gamers to people who rarely play indie games, all because it was the popular thing to do. The second way hard games reach influencers is by being fun to watch. Jump King is, well, the king in this. Each jump is like playing the lottery with your streamer of choice. You anticipate the jump, wait, then either get the funny rage reaction or the success. Fear and Hunger's coin flip mechanic works in a similar way. They are hard, but don't require 100% effort or attention, so a streamer can easily talk while playing. Iridescent is the 100% effort game though, and the anticipation is mostly on the player end, not the viewer. Okay, we can't sell on it being hard. The visuals, although being appealing, won't sell it either. Please go on Steam and look up the games that are currently $10, excluding whatever is on sale for the moment. Iridescent is up against games with a way more talented art team, let's face it. Even if the art style is charming, it looks amateur. Iridescent is best when in motion, and even there most games have it beat. Any sprite from Vampire Survivors looks better than any sprite from Iridescent. Irrelevant of how good or deep or fun each game is. Humans like eye candy, Iridescent isn't eye candy. I can't sell on premise alone. Sekiro meets Zelda isn't the best way of hooking people, compared to something like Iron Lung or Superhot. Music is open source, so no remix is gonna make the game blow up. And of course, I'm a nobody, so I don't have any existing fan base to take advantage of. In these situations, the best thing to do would be to pay for some ads. Sadly, I'm broke. Yeah, the life I've been living was because I couldn't barely afford to survive, so I didn't exactly have cash to burn on hobbies. I barely had enough to put the game on Steam to begin with. I tried to market the game on YouTube, Twitter and TikTok myself. The biggest successes I had were 3k views, and at one time IndieDev picked the game up to show off. I'm still trying to reach out to people with Steam keys, but no luck so far. Even though I sent over 100 emails by this point and infiltrated many discords to share them as well. Some people have streamed the game. Redman Jones and Jonder are doing it right now. Kitten of Decay played it a few times, and Kaizen said he was interested, so there will be at least a little bit of iridescent content in the ether, even if it's not watched by all that many people. But let's face it, I pretty much made a game that is unmarketable. So the game is a failure, but how much exactly? If we're looking at purely investment versus return, then it's not so much a failure. The only money I invested was the $100 to get it on Steam. I got more than 3 times that back, so that's a 300% return on investment. But that's not the whole story. I spent, give or take, about 6,000 hours making the game, according to Steam. Not counting the time I spent looking or making music, yeah, I made some myself, and the time I spent making videos and marketing and all that stuff. In Europe, you can say the average minimum wage is roughly 12 euros. Probably higher in some countries, but let's just go lower end, 12 euros. That is 72,000 euros I could have made working minimum wage. The night shift job I was doing to pay my rent paid a lot more than that, by the way. So to make Iridescent even slightly worth it, I would need to sell roughly 10,300 copies. Again, just competing with minimum wage. And let me remind you, I sold 50 and had a total wishlist count of roughly 1,300. I can cope all I want by saying it's a hobby, but after 6,000 hours and 4 years of my life, I cannot call this anything but a failure. Not made better by the fact that many people in real life, yeah, not internet people, those are fake, they don't exist. It's all AI. Real people in real life often told me something like, 4 years for this? Really? So yeah, massive failure. And you know what? I don't plan to change anything. I will continue to make games. Hell, the next one will probably be even less appealing than this one. I want to only spend 2 months on it and not years, so that's a plus, I guess. This is not my first failure, and it will not be my last. I made something that I look upon with a smile. And even made some dev friends along the way. I'm looking at you, Skull. Wishlist Break of Broken on Steam now. I'm a failure at life, and I'm proud of it. I want to die standing on a pile of trash I made, and happily say, worth it. For it was trash that appealed to me. Be cringe, be free, be happy, and do what you want to do. If the world disagrees, then they can shove it, as long as you're happy doing it. Within reason, wink wink, don't do terrorist stuff please. Anyway, that's the post-mortem. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I only have a few games left in my backlog, so expect me to start up a new project soon. I will autistically share the development details like I did with Iridescent. Now, fuck off. I have games to play and a doctor to entertain. Thank you guys.